Hey, but I mean, life on a cruise ship, it really is. I mean, you're playing several shows a day, or you're. I mean, what's it like as a performer? What are the demands when you're cooped up on a cruise ship? I mean, yeah, you're going to exotic locales, but what's it like to get out there and ply your trade on the open waters?
Well, for me, it was kind of. I wasn't a pianist. Now, some of the pianists and piano players and the people in the band do have to play most evenings, but I was a guest entertainer, so a headliner. So I was very lucky in the sense that we would fly wherever the ship would be. The night before, I would join it when it was kind of half midway through the ship. Not the ship, sorry, the voyage.
Right.
And, of course, then I would perform only 1 or 2 nights maximum. So it was wonderful. And, very, very blessed. My first ever ship was, I got flown to Bora Bora.
Oh, wow.
And it was the Fred Olsen cruise line. And the ship was called the Black Prince. It's no longer in service now. It was leaving out of Southampton. And, we did a transatlantic all the way over there. And it took us days to get there. It was like the third leg of a world cruise or something. We started off, and it was wonderful. And I was lay there with a starfish, Tony, getting paid. I thought I was living the dream. Well, I was living the dream. So
yeah, and you're living the dream now. As a matter of fact, here in the Carolinas, we are familiar with a little song called Under the Boardwalk and some other breezy, carefree doo-wop anthems that were recorded by a group called the Drifters, which has, a complicated history of its own, but, cause there've been like 4 or 5 Drifters at any given time. But you toured with the Drifters in Spain. Tell us about that experience. It had to be interesting to be on the road with guys who are singing songs that are so ingrained in R&B and doo-wop in America and around the world.
Sure, yeah. That gig actually came around. I was living in Spain at the time. My friend Dean Michael was in a very famous group, had many, many party hits called Black Lace.
Yeah.
And he said to me, called me up, because he was living there at the time as well, said, "You want to do this gig?" I said, "What gig?" He said, supporting the Drifters. And it was me and a girl called Nikki Miller. She was doing the female support. And we traveled all the casinos, and it was wonderful. I met Ray Lewis, Johnny Moore, of course, no longer with us, sadly passed away a few years ago. Great guys, so funny. And we had the best time. I was only 22 years of age, so I was a whippersnapper,
Well, that parallels actually a story by a friend of mine who I hope to have on the show, who was actually a dear friend of Mike Stewart. In the prelude to this, I talked about Mike Stewart, but Mike was in a band called the Intruders, who sent 3 songwriters to careers in Nashville, and one of those songwriters was a fellow by the name of Archie Jordan. And Archie ended up becoming a member of the Tams, which is a very
be young, foolish, be happy.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you a little story about it. Sorry to interrupt you. That was my mum's most favorite song of all time. She loved Gladys Knight, the best thing that ever happened to me. But that was her song, and she had those 2 songs played at her funeral. And she said, "Always listen to this song. You're feeling ever down, Paul. Listen to this song. It will pick you up again. Be young, be foolish, but be happy." And I've never, ever forgot those words, and I've tried to live by that motto.
Well, and the interesting thing is Archie tells the story that he's this skinny, shy white guy on tour with principally African American Tams, and it was quite the experience because they were touring at the height of the Tams' popularity. So
they were great.
It was kind of neat that you got out on the road with the Drifters. Well, and now you live the dream as a young man. You live the life of being on a cruise ship.
Sure.
And now you're living your dream because you're kind of setting your musical career on your own terms. And the album, the song that you just released is called My Lucky Stars. And I tell you what I'd like to do if I can. Let's take a pause in the conversation. I want to play that record for folks so that they can hear this Paul Hughes record. And
I would love that.
And so this is the very first independently released record from my very first guest on the Southern Chord Podcast, Paul Hughes, My Lucky Stars on the Southern Chord.
My lucky lucky stars are out tonight. My thankful arms are holding tightly to the answer to my prayers. I can't believe you're here, and there's no way that I deserve to even breathe the same air that you're breathing. But here I am, and here you are, and I thank my lucky stars are shining down. I stand amazed, I'm so astounded. Everything's completely changed. My life, my luck, it all became perfection since you came along. All is right that once was wrong, but here I am, and here you are, and I thank my lucky stars. What a joy and what a blessing. Fortune shine down from the heavens. Something's working in our favor. Constellations came together. Never even saw one fall, and never made a wish at all. But here I am, and here you are, and I thank my lucky stars. What a joy and what a blessing. Fortune shine down from the heavens. Something's working in our favor. Constellations came together. Never even saw one fall, and never made a wish at all. But here I am, and here you are, and I thank my lucky stars. Oh, I thank my lucky stars.
Love that record, My Lucky Stars.
Thank you so much. I know, what a title, right?
I love that because it makes, and when I listen to that record, I'm like, yeah, it's about love and that sort of thing. But I think we all, we would do well to kind of look at the circumstances in our life and look at them through the eyes of gratitude. And, whether you see it as divine intersection, whether you see it as blind luck or whatever.
Yes.
To have, you thank our lucky stars, my lucky stars, for the success. And, that record and other records that are forthcoming, you've worked with some heavy hitters in the music business. Including, you worked in Nashville with North Carolina-born Hall of Fame songwriter Byron Hill, who, for the record, wrote George Strait's first big hit.
He did.
Full-Hearted Memory, Alabama's Born Country, which a lot of folks know. That was about a decade apart, both of those records. How does a British crooner get embraced by a predominantly country music songwriter?
Okay, well, there's a story behind this. I used to be friends many years ago. I'd worked with him. He's sadly not with us anymore, Mr. Tony Hiller.
Yeah.
Great friend of mine. He was like a second father to me. We did a music thing. We got signed to Atlantic and whatever else. But many years ago, we did like a pop. It was kind of a pop project. It was okay. I wasn't ready at the time, but he loved me. He knew I had potential. And I think I've kind of developed Tony as I've been getting, I'm now 41. So, there we go. I give my age away. But, this all came about, him being friends with Byron. So one particular day he said, you know what, son? He said, Carla went to London and she met him as well, Tony Hiller. And, you need to go and see my friend Byron in America. In fact, let's go now. And his wife said, but darling, we haven't been to Nashville for years. He said, but darling, we've had no reason to go. So, he wanted to go over there, but he was quite sick at the time. He'd had a stroke but he was still the Tony that I remember, very enthusiastic, still working, he said, like a maniac. And, but to cut a long story short, he was a friend of mine, a great friend of Byron's. He was, a huge friend. So we got introduced that way. And that's how the whole thing came about with Byron. drove through the night with Carl to meet him for some fish and chips, and just spoke about life in general. We got to know each other. Didn't really speak about music. I was trying to kind of encourage him to write me a song, right?